Thanks for stopping in to check out my channel today. I am making some coffin ornaments for my Creepmas tree. They turn out really cute, so I hope you'll stick around and see the final result. If you are brand new here, thanks so much for joining in on today's crafting adventure. And if you are not new here, welcome back. Thanks for coming. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out and it'll help make sure you don't miss out on any of my crazy crafting adventures. Now I'm just using some wooden paint stirrers for the small quart-size paint cans. I just have a pack of these. I'm going to Mod Podge them to a piece of paper. And I did one on a regular just sheet of copy paper. That's what you see now. And I did a previous one on a piece of cardstock. And the cardstock definitely turned out better, but the copy paper still worked. I just put two other stirrers on top of what I glued before I put an encyclopedia on it to hold it down, and that just made sure that the encyclopedia didn't stick. Now I just have this coffin box that I got from the Dollar Tree this year, and I'm just going to use it as a little stencil to mark out my coffin shape. Now once I get the coffin shape marked, I decided to use my Dremel to cut it, but that wasn't actually working out too well for me. So I kind of score some of the lines a little bit, but I wasn't getting a straight cut, and I was afraid I was gonna end up going too much into the part of the shape that I wanted to keep. So I gave up on that, and I just got my junk scissors out. These are the ones that just sit in my junk drawer and open random bags and things. So just don't use a pair of scissors that you actually care about, but the scissors work just fine. You just kind of had to muscle through it. So once I get the coffin shape cut out, then I came back with my Dremel and just kind of cleaned up the edges a little bit and rounded out the corners that were extremely sharp, just because I didn't want to poke myself later. So being kind to myself. So I get the edges all nice and not really smooth, but just a little bit more even. I don't necessarily care if they're too smooth. I'm not going to touch it, but I'm also going to come back and work on the edges later. So I'm going to give a nice coat of black all over the front and the sides and the back of this coffin shape. When I set out to do this craft, I actually thought that I was going to make a little coffin with some depth to it and more of a box type, that there were sides and things would sit right into. But I decided after I made these tops that I would treat them just like a lid of a coffin. And so all I did was the tops here, but I may go back and do another video over making the whole coffin box. After the black dries, I just did a little bit of dry brushing with this metallic purple, and it looks in person pretty much like it looks on the video, more of a silver. But from prior experience, I know if I had put just a silver on this, it would have been a lot brighter than this purple is. So again, I'm just going to do the other one and make it a little bit shimmery as well. And some spots have more than other spots, and that is perfect. I don't want it to be even. I definitely want it to have kind of a worn shimmer look. So once I get both sides painted, I'm going to put some glitter on. Now if you work with glitter, It's messy, it gets everywhere, and you usually waste more than you even actually need. So I'm going to take a paper plate and I'm going to bend part of the end so that when I am done, it is easy to put the glitter back. I'm just going to do the edge and a little bit around the outside of the edge on what is ultimately going to be the back. Now when I did this, I thought I was going to have that the front of my ornament, but then I decided that wasn't right, and I tried to pour the glitter without taking the insert out. So it is just a process of Mod Podge the area that you want to put glitter on, pour glitter on it before the Mod Podge dries, get the glitter off that isn't stuck, and work on another area. And so I do suggest doing a small area at a time because your Mod Podge will dry before you get a chance to even get your glitter on. And so that happened to be a little bit at the top, and you will see that I have to go back and put a little bit more Mod Podge on so that I can put some more glitter on and it will match. The important thing about that is to wait until it is at least mostly dry, because if you start touching it with your paintbrush again with even glue on it, it's going to just smear everything that's there, and it just doesn't turn out that nice. So if you miss a spot, just wait for it to dry before you come back to touch it up, and it will look just fine once you have to touch it up. So here is what I mean about the putting or the touching up of the spot. You just come back and put glue right back over where it was that it didn't really get the glitter, and glitter right back over it. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and here is what I meant of the reasoning of folding the plate first. If you kind of give that crease in your little paper plate before you do it, then you don't get glitter everywhere trying to make the crease afterwards. And then you can put your paper plate together and tap, and almost all of the glitter will come out. Now I am going to prepare some flowers that I decided to put on the front of this. Now I got these at the Dollar Tree for $1 this year, and they're just some spooky flowers. They're kind of purple with glitter, got a little spider in them, and they have some black leaves and a little eyeball that sits right in the middle of the flower. But that eyeball and the flower itself is a little too tall. It sticks too far out from the coffin. So I'm going to just cut it down a little bit and then glue it all back together with some hot glue and stick it on. But then I realized that I didn't have my hot glue gun next to me, so I went to get my hot glue gun, and when I came back, I, for some reason, decided to add the little hanger to the ornament before I finished the flower. So I'm using this velour ribbon that is just black, and I'm gluing together just the ends and making sure that the loop is where the velour is on the outside and not facing in. And then I'm just going to do a little dab of hot glue on the coffin, and then after I get the bottom of it glued, I pull it back and I'm going to glue right almost up to the very rim of that coffin where the ribbon is going to lay down flat. And this is going to help it stay flat against that back instead of kind of pulling forward a little bit when it's hanging on the tree. Now I'll go back to finishing up the flowers, and I'm just going to take the black leaves and secure them to the back of the flowers because I'm going to cut off the little stem, and if I don't secure these black leaves first, they will just keep trying to fall off. So I'm just going to glue it down with a little bit of hot glue, just a couple little dots all the way around. And then I can trim off that back. And I want to glue the eyeball directly in the center. And so there's a little cavity there, and I'm gonna just kind of fill the cavity with the hot glue, making sure that I get a little bit of hot glue up around the rim. And then I put the eyeball directly on it and press really hard, but then I turned it upside down so that the hot glue would kind of run into the eyeball a little bit as well. So that's cute for the front of the coffin, but it's still missing something. And again at the Dollar Tree this year, I found this kind of sparkly little branch floral piece. And so I thought this would be really cute with the flower kind of behind the flower. Give it a little bit more depth and pop that flower out a little bit. So I'm first going to take the little branch thing and glue it to the back of the flower, and that is going to kind of keep everything together when I secure it down onto the coffin lid. So again, I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue around where that little stub is that I cut off on the back, and then I just find a spot where that branch can fit over that stub, and then I put hot glue all over that whole area, including on the stub, so that when I put it on the coffin, it kind of can fill in that space between where the flower is and where the coffin meets that isn't quite flush with it like that stub is flush with it. I just held it in place until it was nice and secure. But then I decided that it was still missing something. So I decided to put a spider that had come on the purple flower onto this as well. And although you don't see me actually doing it in the video, after I put the spider on, I decided it still needed a little bit more, and I had some little fake branches that were on that purple plant as well, and I put some of those in. So how do you think that it turned out? I absolutely love them, and I cannot wait until I get my tree up and I can show you how good they look on my tree. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.